As I'm sure most of you are already aware, Cristiano Ronaldo wears this boot right here, the Nike Mercurial Superfly 6 Elite. And before wearing the Superfly 6, he wore the Superfly 5, the Superfly 4 before that. The man has worn a lot of Mercurial models throughout his career. And 95% of the time, all with one thing in common, a soft ground stud pattern. More recently, Nike's soft ground Pro stud pattern. But since making the move from Real Madrid to Juventus, instead of wearing the soft ground stud pattern 95% of the time, Cristiano Ronaldo now wears the firm ground stud pattern. The current Mercurial firm ground stud pattern looks like this. It's all plastic studs, all in a bladed kind of chevron arrow shape, positioned in different angles to provide very aggressive bite when pushing off in pretty much any direction. This is the most aggressive firm ground stud pattern on the market right now, based on what I've tried. It also features a split sole construction, which basically has nothing to do with traction whatsoever, despite what some people might say. You'll find this on the Superfly 6 Elite that I have right here, as well as the Vapor 12 Elite variations, which are basically the exact same boot. Now, the current generation of Nike Mercurial came out back when he was still at Real Madrid, and when they came out from day one, he was seen wearing the soft ground Pro variation of the boot, but a Pro-issued variation of the soft ground Pro stud pattern, in that it does maintain the split sole design like you'll find on the firm ground, as well as the AG Pro variations. That version, like I said, is only available to professional players. It's something custom made from Nike, and as an average consumer available to the public, if you actually want to buy a soft ground version of the Vapor 12 or the Superfly 6, you have to go for the anti-clog sole plate variation, which still gives you the soft ground Pro stud pattern, but a very different sole plate, and it does change up the feel of the boot to a certain extent. The whole anti-clog system works really well, but I think the main reason why a lot of pros don't wear it is simply because it adds a significant amount of weight to the boots, and the Mercurials are all about being as light as possible. Why the version the pros get isn't available to the public, I don't know. Ask Nike. Either way, if you didn't know, this is what Nike's soft ground Pro stud pattern looks like on an older Superfly 4. You're still going to find the 6 screw-in metal studs that are removable for the sake of being able to interchange them for slightly shorter or slightly longer studs. In the front, you can have 11 or 13 millimeter. At the heel, you can have 13 or 15 millimeters. And then in between the metal studs, you have some molded plastic studs, just for the sake of giving it a slightly more familiar feel on the ball, in comparison to a firm ground stud pattern, rather than just having 6 individual studs, which is kind of a more old school way of doing a soft ground stud pattern. So what's better, firm ground or soft ground? Well, neither of them, because they're made for 2 different types of playing surfaces, both of course being natural grass, but this is better for firm ground, this is better for soft ground. And the name kind of says it all. If the ground is more firm, this is what you want. If the ground is softer, this is what you want. I can keep getting closer. And that explanation on its own, I think, explains most of why Cristiano Ronaldo has made this change. The fields that he's now playing on in Italy are much firmer than what he was playing on before in Spain and even in England before that, where soft ground stud pattern was more or less his go-to. One of the big misconceptions with soft ground stud patterns in general is because so many people see the pros using them almost exclusively, especially the pros in England, they think that the soft ground stud pattern is going to provide optimal traction on every single surface, but that is not actually the case. This exists as an option for soft natural grass to give you optimal traction on that kind of a surface. If the ground isn't soft, you should not be wearing soft ground boots. You're actually putting yourself at a higher risk of injury because of this, because you have longer studs that aren't going to be able to dig into the ground, therefore creating instability, therefore increasing your risk of injury. And I can only assume that Cristiano Ronaldo, now playing in Italy most of the time, finds that the length of the soft ground stud pattern and just the studs in general aren't really necessary given the softness of the ground, which I can only assume, not having played on any Italian professional fields myself, that the ground is a little bit firmer, which is why he's gone for firm ground. We should also keep in mind that there is a personal preference aspect to wearing firm ground or soft ground boots depending on the field conditions, especially in a professional type environment where the fields are very well maintained. Leo Messi is a great example. He plays in Spain just as Cristiano Ronaldo did, and pretty much never wears soft ground boots. He almost exclusively wears the FG stud pattern, where obviously Cristiano Ronaldo was the exact opposite. The risk of injury side of this is also worth talking about though, not just because because Cristiano Ronaldo recently got injured. I don't think it was boot related in any way at all, but because we have seen other big name Mercurial players, Neymar and Dani Alves being two names that come to mind, that suffered major injuries, boot related or not, but since coming back, they no longer wear the soft ground or the firm ground stud patterns, but instead the AG Pro variation, which is designed specifically for use on artificial grass, even though these guys are playing on natural grass playing surfaces. For those that don't know, this is what the AG Pro stud pattern looks like, where you'll immediately notice that it features conical studs, aka perfectly round ones, versus the bladed studs that you'll find on the firm ground as well as on the soft ground variation of this particular boot. Now, these studs are designed specifically for use on artificial grass, not only because they are rounded in shape, but also because they have this hollowed core with a slightly softer rubber tip that allows for a little bit of flexibility, kind of eliminating the cling that you get when playing on artificial grass, which again can increase your risk of injury. This is going to feel like wearing firm ground boots on natural grass, but with an AG stud pattern on artificial grass. That's kind of the equivalent type of feel. You just don't want to have too much grip, and that's exactly what this accomplishes. It is basically just a regular rounded stud firm ground stud pattern that we've seen on so many boots in the past and so many boots to this day, where basically you're still going to get plenty of grip because of the length of the studs, but because of the rounded shape, you're also going to have that freedom to twist and pivot. The overall bite and traction is not going to be quite as aggressive, but I think this is part of the explanation as to why we've seen guys like Neymar and Dani Alves returning from some pretty serious injuries, likely with some advice from their doctors to wear a stud pattern that's going to be a little bit less aggressive in hopes of reducing the risk of repeating the exact same injury. Now, I'm not saying that when Ronaldo returns from injury, he's going to be wearing the AG Pro variation, although that would be a pretty amazing prediction, but I am saying that there is some kind of association between player safety and the stud pattern, despite what a lot of people seem to believe. And that's pretty much it for this one, guys. If you found this video helpful and informative, please support it with a like. If you're not subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live, because I make a new one every single day. If you have any questions regarding anything that I talked about in this video or any suggestions for topics that you'd like to hear me discuss in video form, leave that down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. All my social media information is linked down below in the description, so follow me there if you don't already. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.